It is a scam when you don't allow everyone to operate on fair terms.
We are the Robin Hoods of sports betting. We take something back from the rich bookies and enable our customers to beat them instead.
G'day everyone, back again, episode 102 of the TradeMate Sports Betting Podcast, a live betting preview of this weekend's Premier League. We're also going to be looking at the La Liga. We're going to be looking at Liga, and sorry, I'm a bit slow here. I haven't written all this down, so I'm frantically trying to find what we're covering. And then you wouldn't read about it. We're going to America. We're going to the MLS. I mean, this is just unprecedented times on the podcast. And who better to do it with than our card betting expert and the man who's just full of stats, George Gamble. First of all, mate, how's the tooth? Everyone's wondering.
Yeah, it's all right. I had to undergo a slight little op just to kind of sort it out after numerous trips to the dentist and a lot of pliers involved. But no, I'm all good now, mate. It was just a rough few days, but I felt absolutely out of it. But no, I'm on the mend now, feeling close to 100% and happy to be back.
It's a pleasure having you back. You probably would have, or you were listening in last week, and Nigel was giving you quite a lot of stick, mate. So, I mean, I don't know what he's out with. Did you like my little tweet, little pun there? Did you get that one about Nigel being out with a shattered patella tendon?
I did. To be fair, I didn't see it, but now you've told me the patella tendon. I do like that. That's good. Yeah. You know for a fact he's sitting back with a few Stellas. It's not Nigel's synonymous with Stella.
Yeah,
it's like no, it's not him without a Stella is like Noel Edmonds without Mr. Blobby. Do you know what I mean? You don't see it.
Yeah, exactly. It's very strange. He loves his Stellas. Last week, mate, we only just went through the results off air before, and I believe, did you go 3 for 5? I think last week,
something like that. Atalanta came in at a big price for match result on both teams to score, winning away. I believe it was Genoa. They won that one. Southampton obviously picking up the win at home to Fulham as well. Didn't quite get the unders with that one as a late goal flurry. Saw that one finish 3-1. And Eintracht with the sort of the surprise of the weekend, losing away to just an abominable Schalke side. Managed to lose that one 4-3 despite having a better goal XG, better chances. But Schalke missed a penalty in that one as well. It was a bit of an odd game, to be honest, a slight anomaly. But no, it was a good weekend overall, and we move on.
Yep, definitely. All right, just a few quick questions. We've got, I'm not going to try and pronounce that. He's saying any NBA bets for tonight, mate? Mate, we've never really done any NBA previews, but so no, the answer would be no. But maybe in the future we'll be looking into the NBA. We just got an article up on the blog, actually, of kind of an NBA playoffs preview, so that should be fun. Head over to our blog. And Gambling Fan says, Alex, as you are now going part-time, will you now be also giving tips, mate? You don't want my tips, mate. You'll go broke. But no, mate. No, not football's not really my thing. I mean, I'm more than happy to talk about Arsenal and give some feedback there because I actually watch every single game and have decent knowledge about Arsenal. But yeah, maybe on the MMA side of things later down the line. But thanks for asking. And yeah, we will get to today's preview. One moment, let me get my little lower third up. It's going spastic down the bottom, mate. How good's this? The top 4 race. This is quite exciting. I think. I mean, the fans are back in the stadiums, and what do you know? We've got a great last round here where you've got 3 teams fighting for 2 top 4 or Champions League places, whatever you want to call it. Before we get into that, mate, the quiz question for the week is, this is right down your alley, mate, and I'd expect you to get this right. Which 2 players have earned the most yellow cards this EPL season so far, with 1 game remaining? And yeah, if you don't get that one right, mate, we'll be ripping up the contract. And it'll be all over. We'll get the answer at the end of the podcast. I do have some options if you're really struggling, mate. And maybe this week, people, you can send in your answers and who you think has the most yellow cards in the EPL this season.
The thing is, I think I know it already, but I'll find out at the end, won't I?
That's what Nigel said last week, mate, and he was completely wrong. So we'll see. We'll see how you go. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to cover I guess there's 3 big games here that'll decide who makes the Champions League. You've got Leicester City and Tottenham. You have Aston Villa and Chelsea, and then you have Liverpool and Crystal Palace. I mean, I don't know where you want to start, mate, but I guess if we want a little preview of every game, you've got Chelsea, Aston Villa. Chelsea a little bit unpredictable at the moment with their form, and they're playing a Villa side with Watkins and Grealish back in the team. So, I mean, we're talking about a completely different side than Villa has been the last few weeks. Liverpool, 4-game winning streak. They're on fire at the moment. They've got their mojo back, it seems. And Leicester, their league form, let's be honest, it's been pretty poor lately. They've kind of been all over the place, losing to sides that they shouldn't be. But they face a Tottenham side, which has been, you would probably say, worse. So, mate, I'll just let you take the floor. Where do you want to take me in this top 4 race? What you think might happen on the final day? And I can kind of flick through on my screen and give people the betting odds of each different game.
Well, I mean, I've kind of gone into a bit more depth into a few of those, but the one I've not gone into so much depth is the Aston Villa Chelsea game. But because I was waiting for refs to come out, obviously, I not had much time today to catch up. But just seeing Stuart Atwell is the appointment to officiate the Aston Villa against Chelsea game, and you know, Jack Grealish is the most fouled player in the division, winning a lot of set pieces for Villa. With the way Chelsea are, you know, it's a game they need to win just to kind of ensure their spot in that top 4. You've got Aston Villa who aren't really playing for anything, but as we saw in their game against Tottenham, you know, it doesn't necessarily matter. They still want to play their best. They still want to kind of finish as high as possible with a high points tally. I'd be looking at the free kick markets in this one personally. You know, Villa are a hard side to play against. They are, and I can see them giving Tuchel's side a few problems to think about. And Aston Villa, like Villa games, the free kick lines always land. I did quite well, narrowly across it actually in their game against Tottenham. It was Villa to commit 14 or more fouls, and they managed 13 or more. Sorry, and they got the 13. But I think Spurs committed around 20 fouls. You know, Villa side they're fouled so often. So I'd be looking at potentially on Unibet. Unibet are usually quite good with the free kick lines on that. So I'd be having a look for Chelsea to commit maybe 15 or more. If the line's below that, I'd be having that all day long. But so that'd be my sort of having angle for the Chelsea game. But like I said, I've gone more into depth on the other ones. I mean, obviously before we move on, I don't suppose if you've got any sort of opinions on the Villa against Chelsea game yourself.
Not really, mate. Just hope that Villa wins.
Yeah. Fair.
I mean, but no, everyone wants to see Leicester make it, don't they? Like, I mean, you got Liverpool and Chelsea. Yeah, you got Liverpool and Chelsea there. So, I mean, do I have a preference as to which one of them make it? Not really.
I mean, as a City fan, I'm overthinking it when it comes to Chelsea as we play them in the Champions League final. I sort of think, but if they don't make it into the Champions League, say for some freak reason they're the ones to drop out, they're going to be like, no, we need to win this Champions League because we want to be in it next season. It's going to give them that extra impetus. And, if they get into it automatically, they're not going to take their eyes off it. They're not going to play any less because it's a chance to win a trophy. But yeah, I don't really know, to be honest. I'm kind of just winging it. But I think overall, as a football fan as well, yeah, we're all Leicester. You want to see Leicester winning. You want to see Leicester get into that top 4 as well. But yeah, and speaking of which, moving on to Leicester against Spurs. I was looking at this one, and Spurs have won just 39% of their away games this season. And they've lost 3 of their 5 away games against the top 6, only winning once, and that was the 6-1 thrashing of United at Old Trafford. But that was back in October of 2020. And they've conceded in 4 of those 5, and also 2+ in 3 of them. So, the way that Spurs are playing at the moment, they look completely devoid of any confidence. They don't really know what they're doing. It's a bit of a calamitous performance against Villa, in my view. I mean, I don't want to read too much into it, but just the basics. I mean, Son, a player who I really do like, but he was losing it on every occasion. Reguilon potentially had the worst game of his career. Everything just went wrong for them. But, Ryan Mason is quite clear he's out of his depth. He's not going to be there, obviously, for next season. But it's worrying times at Tottenham. I think obviously with the
Hugely.
possibility of Harry Kane looking like that he's going to be off as well, looking like he's leaving, and Spurs financially for Daniel Levy, they owe a lot of money. Obviously, they just opened this brand new stadium, but I think it's a very dangerous time for Spurs moving forward. And you often see when there's things going on in the background, the performances aren't quite great on the pitch, and you're seeing that with Spurs even before that. So I don't give Spurs much hope here whatsoever. Leicester have drawn just one home Premier League game all season, and that was a 1-1 draw with Man United. They've beaten Chelsea and beaten Liverpool at home this season. Admittedly, that was a Frank Lampard Chelsea side, but that was only about a week or two before Tuchel came in. Leicester have also won 2 of their last 3 games against Tottenham. But in terms of Tottenham as well, we've obviously just mentioned how bad they are. Only Brighton have lost more points from winning positions than Spurs this season. Spurs have lost 23 points from winning positions. And that includes, obviously, we saw against Villa, they took the lead nice and early, and then Villa just dominated and then got the win. So it kind of shows their defensive frailties and the mentality they've got at the moment as well. They're just awful, plain and simple. That's all you can kind of say. And Spurs need West Ham to lose at home to Southampton. Meanwhile, Leicester need to win and Chelsea or Liverpool to drop points to get back into that top 4. So, there's kind of motivation for both of these sides. But I don't see how Spurs get the win here against Leicester. I don't see it happening. When Leicester played Chelsea, not the FA Cup final, but the following league game, they looked a little bit hungover, if you like, but that's to be expected after, putting all that effort into a cup final, winning it against the odds. And then they played that Chelsea again. And we've seen it before when sides play each other in the cup and then they've got to play each other very quickly in the league. The chance of the second affair, it's just the performance drops massively. But I think they'll raise their game here. Obviously, with fans back as well. Everything's against Spurs in this one, in my book. So I do fancy goals. Is this the last game of the season? The last game, the last match day always sees a hatful of goals, and it tends to be the way. For over 2.5 goals and Leicester double chance is 2.17 on Unibet, which I thought was a cracking price because Spurs do tend to score, but they're not going to score more than Leicester in my book. Leicester are going to at least draw this game. So over 2.5 goals and a Leicester City double chance at 2.17 looks a punt for me on Unibet.
Okay. Great stuff, mate.
Yeah.
I didn't realise that Spurs actually still had a chance of making the Europa League. So that is obviously if West Ham lose and they win. So they do have a lot to play for. And even if they get a draw or something like that, there's still half a chance of making the first ever Europa Conference League, which I'm sure teams will be very, very excited to qualify for. Myself personally, I'm not quite sure whether I even want Arsenal to play in that competition, but it's there's a lot to play for in that game, and I guess if I actually might just get the table up for people so they can kind of understand the scenario of exactly could happen on the final day.
It's a bit of a shame, really, because obviously no one seems to want the Europa League. They see it more as a distraction because My dad is a Spurs fan, and he was saying, "I don't even want us playing Europa League. It's just a distraction. I'd rather a manager come in, just have the domestic season to sort things out. I don't want Europa League." And you do wonder, are the players going to be the same? Do we really want to play Europa League? Like, it's just an inconvenience. It's not the prestigious tournament. So
it's good for the first half of the season. It's great for the first half of the season, I think, because you get to really rotate your squad and you get some players in there. For Arsenal, it's almost been a breeding ground the last 4 years for the likes of Saka and Smith Rowe and Willock and all these guys. They've been able to get 6 games in that they wouldn't have gotten if we were in the Champions League or not in the Champions League. So I think it's good in that sense. And the Europa Conference League would do the exact same thing. The problem is when you get to the knockout stages, teams are going to take it a lot more seriously and they're going to start to play their best players. So for me as an Arsenal fan, I just want us to do well in the league. It's been such a long time. But if we did happen to qualify for the Conference League, which is just even more of a joke than the Europa League, then I would just pray that Arteta or whoever's in charge of Arsenal was just like, this is just, I'm not taking Aubameyang, I'm not taking Partey, Tierney to the middle of nowhere in a midweek game, or where this is just a youth competition. Like, or a squad competition, whatever you want to call it, and we just play a B team the whole way through, then I'd be happy because at least everyone's getting minutes then. And everyone.
But you say that, I mean, with that Conference League, I mean, I agree with you in terms it is a bit of a joke, but you've got to remember we support clubs that are kind of, now City, for example, they're regulars in the Champions League. So the snob in us, if you like, considers it beneath ourselves. But you've got teams sort of like, say, Wolves or even Everton at the moment who like maybe struggling to get that. They still get a chance to play in Europe, and it's brilliant for them because they get to travel around. Fans get to travel, obviously, when things open up properly, travel to different parts of Europe, in a competitive competition. So I think it's still a good opportunity. And for example, even in the Bundesliga, teams like Union Berlin, who were in the second division not long ago, they might be able to play in Europe. It's fantastic for them. And obviously, it's more football to watch. But no, I see what you're saying. But for teams sort of kind of like Spurs and yourselves, maybe it's more of a hindrance as opposed to kind of a goal.
And there's the money aspect to it too, isn't it? So I don't know how much money that you would make for playing in the Europa Conference League. I mean, I'm sure it's not too much, but I know that like qualifying for the Champions League compared to qualifying for Europa League, the first year that Arsenal missed out, it's a ridiculous loss in revenue. So I think it's something like 50+ million pounds or something crazy like that. So I guess qualifying for these European competitions can be quite a financial coup for the clubs.
Definitely.
Let's so the last game's Liverpool Palace. This is probably the most straightforward game, I guess.
What about West Ham Southampton? That's a big game.
Oh, I mean, we can cover that too, mate. I mean, we can cover that after. How about we talk about Liverpool Crystal Palace first? Is there anything here that you find interesting? I mean, Liverpool seems I was looking at the XG of Liverpool too. I mean, it seems like they're kind of getting back to their previous ways.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really a results-based angle that I'm looking at here. And as Nigel said, which I still can't believe, I'm not sure if it was brilliant or absolutely atrocious, but being a protractor and looking at all angles, outrageous. But
that was just absolute quality.
I really hope he made that. Like he thought of that himself rather than blagged it from somewhere else. But Nigel seems to sort of like that would just pull that one out of the hat from nowhere. But no. So the angle that I'm looking at for Liverpool Palace is cards based, and I can't believe the price really. So first things first, the pick that I've got, it landed when Liverpool played Newcastle at home recently, and it was a similar price then, and it was the same referee. So it's Andre Mariner who's in charge of this one. He has got a low average, but like I said, he was in charge when Liverpool played Newcastle at home recently. And this bet that I said was evens, it landed after 15 minutes in that game. And it's for both teams just to see a single card in the game. So we need two cards, one for Liverpool, one for Palace. And that's at 5-4. I mean, we've got to try and do the conversion on that. But for people that love your decimals, let's have a look. It's
220?
2.25, that one is. So yeah, that's 2.25 for both teams just to see a card. Liverpool, like we said, we've already covered. They need to equal Leicester City's result to guarantee a place in the top four. But this will be Roy Hodgson's last game in charge of Palace, so they'll want to try and finish on a high against obviously Roy's former club. And Palace, they were thrashed 7-0 in the reverse fixture. I don't necessarily see a repeat of that here, but obviously Liverpool are in good form at the moment. They're doing well, and it looks like this final sort of little vein of form may see them finish in the Champions League spots, which looked kind of maybe a step too far at one point. So they've done well in that regard. But I did look at the markets for goals and the result here because I saw a few trends, but the markets were awful. The prices, if they're not bang on, they're far too low, so they weren't really appealing. But in terms of the cards, Liverpool have seen a card in 11 of their 18 home Premier League games this season, and in those, their opponents have seen a card in 15 out of 18. Meanwhile, Palace, when they're on their travels, have seen a card in 13 out of their 18, and their opponents in those saw a card in 12 out of 18. So they're quite high numbers. Really, there's not a sort of they're not far away at all. So the fact that this bet for both teams to see a card at 5-4, it's a bit too high in my opinion. Maybe sort of around evens, maybe at 1.95, something like that. I think all they're doing is they're factoring in the fact that Liverpool don't tend to get fouled very often. just because of the way they play. They're very quick with possession. They move the ball very fast, so players can't get near them. The opposition just can't touch them. But the fact, this landed in that home game against Newcastle, and Palace are one of the most fouled sides in the division per game on average. For me, this price is just too good to turn down. So I do quite like both teams to be carded at 5-4.
Yeah, well, watching Palace yesterday play Arsenal, they were very, very aggressive too. And that was Roy Hodgson's last game at home. So I think they will be going out with a similar mindset. I think they obviously understand their game and they know that one of their best chances of getting a victory is to really irritate the other team and just get as physical as possible. So, I agree with that one, mate. And it seems like quite big odds. And Mr. Nemo here, he agrees with you. I assume that's with Bet365, mate?
Certainly is, yep.
Okay, terrific. All right. And do you have something to say about the West Ham Southampton game?
I do, actually. I do. There's not a lot into it. Just a quick one, just sort of touching on it. Southampton have won just 4 of their 18 away games so far. That's just around 22%. But West Ham have only lost 5 of their 18 at home. And only one of those was against the bottom half opposition. That was Newcastle United on the opening day of the season. West Ham with everything to play for, like we've already covered. They'll secure a Europa League spot with a draw, which is absolutely massive for them. When David Moyes came in, I think obviously last season, they were hovering around a relegation scrap. And as we all know, they've been brilliant this season, somewhat overperformed. But if they can secure Europa League, that'll be huge for them. And motivation will be high to do so. And they'll secure that just with the draw. But I do think they'll want to get the win here. But West Ham have scored exactly 3 goals in each of their last 3 home meetings with Southampton. And it's been tough for Southampton. They've had a pretty torrid season all in all. It's been fairly average. And I think they're just looking forward to it ending, try and regroup and tackle the new season. I think they're kind of mentally already on the beach. I quite like to, again, this is a price play more than anything. For West Ham to win and West Ham to score 2 or more goals, it's at 2.74. Again, that's on 365. I just thought that was a little bit overpriced. West Ham games have seen quite a lot of goals recently. And the attacking nature that they have, the attacking prowess they've got, I think might be just a little bit too much for Southampton. That was just kind of a brief overview of that one. I don't really see Southampton picking up the win there. So it's more of a price play. I'm not saying West Ham are going to go out and absolutely trounce Southampton, but a 2.74 for, this kind of punt that could very easily land, particularly with what Southampton are like defensively and their torrid away form. It was a worthy punt for me at 2.74.
Sorry, what was the bet? Sorry, I missed that.
West Ham to win, but them to score 2 goals as well.
Oh, okay, West Ham plus 2 goals for them. All right. So let's just recap all your kind of top 4 battle, or I guess we can call it the top 6 battle. You've got Leicester double chance and over 2.5 goals in that one. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
And what were the odds for that one?
2.17. That was on Unibet.
2.17 and Liverpool both, and Liverpool Crystal Palace game, both teams to get a card there at 2.25, and West Ham to win and score 2 goals at 2.74. Sound good, mate?
Correct.
All
Perfect.
Right, got a question here from John Nimmo. He says, worth looking at first half markets too. I assume he's talking, I think he just means first half markets in general, namely for Leicester and Manchester United games. Both teams are notorious for playing a game of 2 halves.
Potentially, I don't like playing half markets personally. Again, you've kind of said it there yourself. There's, they're notorious for playing a game of 2 halves, and you can very easily get it wrong in half markets. It's not something I prefer to dabble in, but again, I can't really comment on it because it's not something I tend to look at very much. But if at the end of the day it comes down to everything, if you've spotted what you believe is value compared to the stats of if it's happened previously, then by all means have a go. Because if you're playing the value long term, you'll see profit. But half markets aren't something I tend to have a look at.
All right, terrific, mate. All right, we'll end it there with the top 4 race. If anyone else has got some predictions, send it through. It'd be interesting to see what people think will happen on the final day. It seems like Liverpool will most likely be the team to to go through, and then out of Chelsea and Leicester, it will be very, very interesting. Let's go to your first game that you've picked out for this weekend. Sorry, I'll just switch a few things around. You are taking me to La Liga to kick things off, and another massive game here as Atletico Madrid look to beat Real Valladolid to secure the La Liga title, mate.
Yeah, this is a absolutely massive game for both sides, really. You know, for Valladolid, they need a win against their title-chasing visitors, but they also need defeats for Huesca and Elche, or a draw for the latter. But that's if they're to pull off a miraculous escape from the dreaded drop in La Liga. For Atletico, the task's simple. Win here, they secure the first La Liga crown for, 7 years? But anything less obviously opens the door for Real Madrid to kind of pip them to the titles. They hold the better head-to-head advantage in the event of tied points. But yeah, Valladolid have seen 2+ cards in 72% of their home games this season, while Atletico have seen over 1.5 in 89% of their away La Liga games. And in fact, in the reverse fixture earlier on in the season, there were 6 cards, and Atletico saw 4 of them. But yeah, the bet I like is quite a low price, but I don't see, given the nature of the game, given what's at stake for both teams to see 2+ cards, so over 1.5 team cards each is 1.7 on Bet365. But this bet is as low as 1.42 elsewhere. My model suggests that this should be priced at around 1.45. So Unibet have got it, pretty much smack on. So I Bet365 offering 1.7 for this. It was a little high in my opinion, and there's value there, and I do think it lands just because of what's at stake in the game. I haven't looked at the referee announcements just of yet, but as we know, referees in Spain are notorious for cards, and I don't see even a man who's got no eyesight is going to watch this one and think, "How is that not worth a card?" It's just going to be ridiculous, in my opinion. So yeah, both teams over 1.5 cards, relatively simple at 1.7 on Bet365. Real Valladolid against Atletico Madrid.
Loving it, mate. Loving it. I mean, it should be a feisty encounter. Both teams with a lot to play for, mate. And then you want to take me over to France now, mate. And another huge game as Lille look to wrap up the Ligue 1 title.
Yes, mate. We're on a European tour, and we're looking at, again, another sort of title-chasing challenge. Last game of the season in France, and Lille sitting pretty at the top of the table. It's so tight. There's a point in it between them and PSG. But yeah, huge game in the west of France as a win for Lille. Sees them crowned as Ligue 1 champions. It'll be the first time a team other than PSG's won it since Monaco in 2016-17. But Lille have got the best away defence across Europe's top 5 leagues, and that's an excellent foundation to have if you're trying to, go out and win a title on the final day ahead of PSG. Obviously they're the best in the country. But yeah, obviously they need to equal or better PSG's result to win that title. 61% of Lille's away games have seen under 2.5 goals this season, but they've won 72% of those away games. So, Lille obviously win these games by quite a tight margin on a frequent basis. They've also fared better away from home this campaign, winning 13 of their 18 matches and come into this one on the back of 4 away victories. And that includes once against PSG as well. So you could argue that game alone has kind of put them in this position. It was a title decider then if they can go on and win this one. But I'm going to Dutch 2 separate bets. So firstly, I'm going to be going with Lille to win and under 2.5 goals, and that's at 3.4. And I'm going to Dutch that with Lille to win and under 3.5 goals, and that's 1.95. So if you Dutch it accordingly, obviously be able to kind of make profit on that one. But yeah, I do see Lille winning. I think they'll hold their composure. I don't think any other side in fact, no side in Ligue 1 has scored more goals than them in the final 15 minutes. So I feel if things do get tight and edgy, they'll be confident of the fact that they can go and get a winner, as they've done it so many times this season already. So Angers, not a lot less to play for. I think if anything, this is just a big game for them because they can be the ones to stop Lille winning a title. That's all they've got on it. But apart from that, there's nothing for them to really play for. So yeah, 2 bets on that one. Dutch in the bet of Lille and under 2.5, and Lille and under 3.5. Those are odds of 3.4 and 1.95 respectively.
All right, mate. How good is this? And to cap things off, we're taking our first ever trip to America. and we're going to be covering a game of Seattle Sounders versus Atalanta. Oh, jeez, Atlanta. Jeez, I'm in Italy most of the time, mate. So this is very confusing for me. So Seattle Sounders.
It was worse for me the other week when I tipped a double of Atlanta United to win and Atalanta to win as well in the same pick. That was a bit of a nightmare, but some people were very confused. But I love Seattle. I've been to watch Seattle Sounders a number of times. I know a few of the people there, and they've got off to a brilliant start in this MLS campaign. They were last season's MLS Cup finalists, but they've got a 100% record at home so far, winning their opening 3 games. But that's by an aggregate of 9-0, and they still face some tough other teams there as well, because none of them have seen 5 goals or more either. But 2 of those home games were against free-scoring sides, LA Galaxy and LAFC. And that takes some doing. But Seattle do play some excellent football. I don't know if you saw a clip midweek of some of the expansive football, counter-attacking football that they were playing. It was sublime. It was really good for, no disrespect to the MLS, but obviously the standard over there compared to Europe isn't obviously comparable really, but they play some brilliant football. But yeah, looking at them against Atalanta, see, I've done it. There you go. Looking at them against, it happens, mate. I'm just adding an extra A in there. Can't help it. There's too many A's already. But no, Atlanta United, that's who they welcome. And none of their previous head-to-heads have seen more than 3 goals. So they tend to be relatively low scoring. But Atlanta so far this season, it's hard to judge because we're about 5-6 games in. But nevertheless, they're a different side away from the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. They don't look as cohesive. They've just welcomed back, obviously, Jackson Martinez. The last couple of games he's been kind of injured, but no, he's back and in the running, in the firing. So he's a fantastic goal scorer, but they need him to kind of be on form. But yeah, Atlanta are yet to pick up a win on the road whatsoever. The Sounders, in terms of team news, they're going to be without their keeper, Stefan Fry, and he is a fantastic keeper in terms of the MLS. He's brilliant, but this will be the second game they're missing him, and it didn't concern him in the last game. But they're also going to be without key midfielder Nicolas Lodero. He's been out since the beginning of the season, and again they've been managed to cope without him. But so it's just more to kind of highlight the fact that even though they could be missing a few key players, they've got that strength in depth and still have that quality. They are one of the best, if not the best team in the MLS, and they're one of the most consistent sides as well. And despite missing Lodero, they've still managed to score at least twice in every home match so far without reply. They've kept clean sheets in all of them. As I've mentioned, the quality is, just in my opinion, far superior, and they should be able to pick up a win here against a side that don't look like they're travelling that well. And I was quite surprised to see that the line for goals, like I said, head-to-heads, there's not many goals. Seattle have been very good at home, but Atlanta, they're still okay in terms of like their defensive side. They're not that frail defensively, but yeah, Seattle Sounders to win and under 5 match goals, you could get at evens, which I thought was a great price. So I'd have it a bit lower than that, more around sort of maybe 1.85, 1.9, something like that. So yeah, for Seattle Sounders to win under 5 match goals at evens on Bet365, I thought was a good punt.
Under 5, so that would be a push if it goes to 5 goals.
Well, yeah, so basically, no, because it's not an Asian line. It's not an Asian line, so you need it to be 4 goals or less. Okay. You do that in the bet builder.
All right. No worries. And that was at evens. Was that a Bet365 at 2s?
Yep. Again, it was offering the best price. So.
All right. Awesome. Okay. Now we have a few questions that we can get to. First one from Gambling Fan, or at least we have 2 from Gambling Fan. He says, how low would you go on Lille plus under 2.5 goals?
Well, as I've already mentioned, I'll be Dutch in that with under 2.5, and then also again with under 3.5, just to kind of keep it safe. But if you're going under 2.5, like as I've already said, the odds on that are 3.4. I wouldn't want to go any lower than maybe 3s. I think 2 to 1 or 3.0 is a very good price, but maybe not lower than that because it is the last game of the season. One anger's goal, and then obviously it's quite tight then. So. But yeah, I think they'd be still valuing it at 3s. But any lower than that, I wouldn't want to maybe be going on it. But the price I've got on that is a great price.
Yep. And he's also asked a long, long time ago, but I forgot to get to it. I thought it'd be best to get to it at the end of the podcast. But he's asked, oh, sorry, wrong one. When should I place my futures bets for the 2021/22 season. I don't know if you have any thoughts on this, but I would say definitely now it's probably way too early because we haven't even gone through a transfer window yet or even gotten close to it. We don't know what squads will look like. We don't even know what teams would be in the certain leagues because of the promotion and relegation races. So yeah, when do you start to look at those things?
Well, for example, if we're looking at this season, you've got the Euros to come. You don't know what injuries will happen, as you've already attested to. You don't know what transfers are going to happen. You don't know what squads are going to look like. You can kind of get more of a feel of how teams are going to play and what's going to go on sort of when the friendlies sort of start, maybe a few weeks out, a couple of weeks out before the new season start. So that's kind of when I'd be looking at. It depends what futures you're placing. If it's top goal scorers or teams, if it's teams to finish in a certain position, you want to kind of do your research into that team, see what their aspirations are, see what business that they do, and that sort of thing. But yeah, if it's to do with players, you definitely want to be waiting to see what happens and you get a clearer picture of how the season's going to unfold in your opinion. There's too many variables that we don't know at the moment, like transfers and stuff. So yeah, a couple of weeks, maybe a few weeks out before the season starts, in my opinion.
Yep. All right. Terrific. And obviously still got the Euros and all that to be played too. So there could be injuries and all sorts of things. I mean, imagine if you backed someone like Tottenham to win the league and there wasn't any news about Harry Kane leaving the club and he got injured or something like that, or like a key player, let's just say Jack Grealish or something like that does an ACL in the Euros, So
if you're betting Tottenham to win the league, reevaluate. and fast.
Love that. All right, so we will. Oh, do we have some more? Here we go. We got some more. Player Cam HD says to both of you, who's your outside picks for Euro 2020? Well, I got Denmark. I think everyone got on board the Denmark train very early, but I got them at 81, odds of 81 or something like that. So that was a long, long time ago. So I'll be backing Denmark, and I think they've really firmed into maybe like 30-1 or 40-1, something like that now.
Yeah, I had a small little punt on Denmark as well. But I'll be honest, I've been so busy that I've not really had a chance to actually just sort of sit down for a couple of hours, put my research in and make picks. So it might be a case of sort of going game by game for me and having fun with it, really. But no, Denmark are a play, but I'll be having a look probably this weekend, to be fair, after the season's done. Sit down, see if I can still pick some decent prices, but I'd imagine some of them are long gone by now.
Yeah, and we haven't really talked about it yet or discussed any plans, but hopefully George and Nigel too will be around over the coming months and we can do some previews of the Euros, and also you're covering the Copa America too, mate. So that'll give us plenty of tips to get out to the people. We got Gambling Fan. He's back. How low would you go? He really he's obviously gone to his favorite betting website and they're not offering the LT.
Yeah.
How low would you go for West Ham plus West Ham 2 goals or more?
Probably about 2.5 for me. 2.5 is a good line there. I've got on at 2.74, but yeah, 2.5 is, I think, as low as I go on that one.
All right, terrific. And Player Cam HD, he's loving the channel. He's loving the previews. So yeah, mate, we'll keep it up. All right, people, get your answers in for the quiz question of the week, and in the meantime, George will get to his best bet of the weekend. The quiz question, just to rehash, was which 2 players have earned the most yellow cards in the EPL this season. So get your answers in if anyone is around. And maybe you can have a think about it yourself, mate. Don't obviously put it in have a look at the comments that come through. No cheating. Best bet of the weekend, mate. What are we thinking?
Yeah, so I've been sort of having a look through them, really. And so obviously I like them all. So it's trying to think, obviously, what the best punt would be. But I think I'm going to have to go with the lower price one, just because of everything that's riding on it and the stats behind it. Real Valladolid at home to Atletico Madrid. Both teams are over 1.5 cards at 1.7. I don't see how it doesn't land. I mean, I might eat my words, and we see none in the game. That would just be typical. But I don't see how this game doesn't see a hatful of cards, if I'm honest, with everything at stake for both teams. So yeah, both teams over 1.5 cards at 1.7.
Tremendous, mate. Let's. What have we got here? Chelsea plays Saturday. Okay, I think that might be a little bit of spam. I'm sorry about that. You guys need to start reviews for the Brazil, Latin America markets. Congrats for the great job. Well, I guess the closest we'll get to it, mate, is the Copa America in a couple of weeks. When does that kick off, mate?
So that kicks off June 13th, I believe.
June 13th. All right, very exciting. All right, let's get to the quiz question. But firstly, make sure you follow this man on your screen at CGeorgeGamble on Twitter, and also check out his YouTube channel, which is called George Gamble, for any card-related information or picks or whatever. And Nigel's obviously someone else that we get on the podcast quite regularly, who normally joins us, premiersportsplays.com. And yeah, George will be working there over the summer with the Copa America. So make sure
I was going to say as well, a bit, sorry for the bit of self promo, but a lot of these previews are put up on the personal page as well. With so that's on Twitter as well, which you can follow it. I think it's George_CGG. If you want to check out the previews there, a lot of them will be, I think most of them will be from what we've discussed today, but if you like them in front of you in writing, then they'll be up there.
Yeah, cool. For those more visual learners, or
there you go.
Don't like to listen to me talk and whatever. All right. So we've got the quiz question here. Which two players have earned the most yellow cards in the EPL season? We've got a few answers already come in, mate. But if you had to pick two players that are at the top of the list at the moment, what would you go with?
I mean, I'm pretty sure I know it, obviously following cards. I mean, I don't go on player card markets, I just don't, but I still keep track of it, and I know which players are good for them. So I'm pretty sure it's Harry Maguire is one, and a certain John McGinniester is the other.
That's brilliant. Yeah, mate, you are very much correct. We had a few answers come in. So Sid has said, is it Maguire or Shaw? Mate, it's just Maguire, and also McGinn joining in. And then John Nimmo. I mean, everyone's kind of gone Harry Maguire, which is good. So they've got one of them right. The other ones were, so you had Harry Maguire and John McGinn. And then I think next best was Conor Gallagher from West Brom.
Yeah.
He's a loanee from Chelsea.
Correct.
Yeah. And then, sorry.
Yeah, he is indeed. And then I think you've obviously got the likes of Højbjerg, Calvin Phillips, and those kind of players.
Yeah, Hector Bellerin was up the top there too. I think he had like 8 yellow cards or something very close to that within like the first half of the season, but he's done nothing at the yards because he hasn't really started too many games. All right, I think John Nimmo's got one final question. Loving all these questions. They're just flooding in. What matches for the EPL do you think is most likely for scoring goals and both teams to score? From a value betting over 2.5 perspective, as said earlier, a lot of goals in the final match day.
Ooh, I mean, for over 2.5, there's a few games I like. As I've already mentioned, there's a ridiculous amount of goals in the final day. So I quite like Arsenal and Brighton to see 3 or more goals. Villa Chelsea as well. As I've already mentioned, Leicester and Tottenham, I definitely think we'll see over 2.5. And West Ham United Southampton, yeah, I think you could potentially see a few goals there, as I've already mentioned. But yeah, so those would be my favourite ones. Both teams to score. It's a difficult one, but yeah, Leicester and Tottenham, I can both potentially see scoring. Because when Harry Kane's on the pitch, there's always Spurs have always got a chance of scoring, but it's whether they can score enough to stay in the game. So yeah, for over 2.5, Arsenal, Brighton, Leicester, Tottenham, and yeah, West Ham, Southampton, I think would be my picks.
Yep. All right. Awesome, mate. Well, I guess we can call it a day there. That was a very entertaining podcast. Lots of great questions coming through. Good to see you all joining in for a live one, which can be a rare event nowadays. But hopefully we will be back. This kind of wraps up the game week season. So thank you, George, and thank you, Nigel, and even Haru back in the day who were coming on every week, or just about every week, to preview the football, or the, what do you want to call it, the club football. But yeah, big international fixtures or tournaments coming up, so that'll be very exciting, and hopefully we can get some more content your way. So yeah, thanks for listening, everyone. Do a quick rate and review of the podcast and subscribe to us wherever you listen. And if you're looking to implement some of the strategies we talk about weekly on the podcast, start a free week trial of TradeMate Sports and begin your value betting journey. George, mate, it's been a pleasure, and we'll catch you very soon, mate.
Nice one. Take care.
All right, outro video.